community. So that's where we've been. Where we are is that we have asked HUD what we need to do in order to get HUD out of our backyard. And what I mean by that is I feel strongly that we need to be able to make decisions locally about what Happy Hill will be. Right now, HUD has restrictions because we used all this HUD money to go build the apartment communities. HUD was a part of this master planning effort. And so right now, no matter what I want to do with the land, I have to run to HUD and ask permission first. We have submitted a development proposal to HUD, asking HUD if we build out approximately 10 units, will HUD then release us from any other restrictions so that we can move forward as a community and figure out what is in the best interest of this community in Winston-Salem in 2022. So that's where we are. That is pending with HUD, okay? Councilmember Scipio has asked me to speak to the development process. I think the materials do an excellent job of laying that out. I won't walk through each particular line, but suffice to say that we don't have, as the Housing Authority of the City of Winston-Salem, the infrastructure to go out and obtain the financing, hire the architect, complete the design, hire the general contractor, manage the general contractor. We as an agency have to partner with a developer in order to be able to do that, and then the developer functions as described in the materials. That includes the rezoning. It would involve a competitive solicitation. So I want sort of the room to understand that we haven't just been sitting around hoping that some magic beam falls from the sky and then houses go up in Happy Hill. We've been trying to work a plan, but we need a development partner, we need funding, and we need HUD to sign off on it before anything happens. And just like anything that we do, we don't want to do any new development to the community or for the community. We want to do it with the community. And I cannot imagine moving forward with a development project at this site that does not emphasize, respect, and acknowledge the significant historical and cultural assets that are present in the community. And as I said before, that plan may not look like it did in 2003. It might, but we need to talk about that and we need to figure that out. Anything else you want me to hit on? All right, thank you, Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you. I hope you got some questions that you want to get further clarity on, but I thought Mr. Cheshire actually told you where his position is and what can and cannot be done. Not right now, please. No, you have, we're going to get to questions in a minute. We just have one more area. The American Rescue Plan Act is important for you to know about because there have been some dollars that have been designated for various uses. So I want you to know that also because it's $51 million that the city has. And I want you to understand what's happening with that because that may influence what happens here. Ms. Tony is going to walk us through that.
And I'm gonna walk really quickly because I know you all want to comment. You have most of the information in your handout. The City of Winston-Salem received $51.7 million of the American Rescue Plan Act. That is significant money. It's transformational dollars potentially for local communities. The money has to be spent by December 31st of 2026. And so the projects have to be completed by December 31st of 2026. You can see what the money can be used for and what the money cannot be used for. Essentially, the federal government does not want us to put it into our own rainy day fund. They don't want us to put it into pension fund. They want this money to go out to the community. And that's exactly what our city council has earmarked the money for. On this next page, you'll see a list of the kind of areas that the city has earmarked funding for. You'll notice that housing investments is number one at $20 million. And so you can see that is kind of the priority, followed by social and economic assistance, restoration of reduced revenues, and you can see down the list on how this money has been earmarked by our city council. And so right now they are reviewing transformational grants, and so these would be kind of high dollar grants that nonprofits in particular have applied to the city to receive and have proposed really transformational ideas for the community. And so we're still in this process, and this process is continuing, but feel free to go to our budget website to get updated information on those grants.
And the final information I want you to have is on the very back page. Lift our true nest. The money from our ARPA came to us because we have many tracts of people living in what they call the qualified census tracts. Those are areas where people are living in poverty. This is my passion, this is my heart, because I looked at the demographics and I am very angry about that. We have 105,000 people living in poverty in the city of Winston-Salem, almost 40,000 households. Their annual incomes are $16,000 on average. When I saw those numbers, and I don't know if anybody else is disturbed, and you can see the size of where they live, how large it is. That's based on the census tracts, the census that was just done. And I'm certain it's underrepresented because many of our Black and brown households did not complete the census. So it's an underrepresentation. When I see this, we have almost 8,000 elementary kids living in poverty. Another 7,000 middle schoolers. It pains me to know that we'd rather talk about housing. That's a good thing. We do need housing. Who's going to go in those houses? Who? How are we going to lift our people up? I did not put race on here because when you talk about race, it takes it to a whole nother dimension because it doesn't matter. We know the history of talking about race in the United States. I'm not getting into that, but what I am getting into is that whatever we do in any of our communities that people are living in this area needs to be definitive. It needs to be so purposeful that there is a destination out of poverty. So, when the arts-based school approached me about their idea, and I said that's a great thing because education, quality education, there are 10 schools in the East Ward, and the arts-based school is almost alone in being a top school. Our other schools are F's, D's, and C schools. How are our kids going to get out of poverty if we don't start giving them experiences and exposure so they don't end up being in this trap? Poverty is a trap. So I thought it was a good idea. I stand on my taking that stance to say, let's help them make a school in an area that did not have a school. because I don't want them to be victims. I want them to start being victors. I want them to get out, just like I did. My parents worked in the factory, but they worked. My mom and my dad worked 45 and 43 years. My dad had a 3rd grade education. My mom got her high school diploma when the Psych Tech opened, and they offered adult education. She wanted to have something more. There are so many resources in this city that anyone who wants to rise can, but they need to know where to go. But it's not a gift. They're going to have to sacrifice and work for it. So I just say I apologize for anybody who I did not tell about the art space school to convince you that that's a good deal. It's on undeveloped land in this area. And at this point, we're opening it up for questions. I have 2 that have been given me. And then anybody else that would like to ask a question, please come to the microphone. This question says, explain the history around the city's promise to use this land for housing. Did that promise expire? The promise, I'm not sure when the promise was made. If we're talking about, we just had the explanation from the Housing Authority. But the land for the art space school is a large plot that's not, it's a city-owned, it's not developed on the map, and you can see that. And that is a quandary because we now have a policy that says we want to use our city-owned land for housing. But the council has the power to say that it can be used for other things. That's a vote of the council. If we want to have that land used, sold to a nonprofit. Now, I just have to say this, because there's been some discussion about having a community land trust, etc. I'm going to say to the group that's interested in doing that, the Happy Hill Coalition, you must become a legal, legitimate entity. It can't be a loose association of people. It has to be an organization that is legitimate. It can be for profit, like an LLC, or it can be nonprofit, like the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association, I believe, is a 501c3. So that's a legitimate organization. But your coalition is not a legal association at this point. You can make it one, but that's what happens. So we can't give land to just anybody, unless you're a developer, but you gotta be legitimate as an organization. I can't read. Was the city sure of how Art Space School would have accepted students and whether all Happy Hill middle schoolers would have been able to attend? The policy was to be preferential treatment for, as a charter school, based on residency, for the middle schoolers. And it was my understanding that President Harris helped to recruit kids for the elementary kindergarten and the kindergarten and first grade for this year. The Art Space School plan was to increase a grade every year, and then to have the middle school built when those kids are ready to go to middle school. So that was the answer to that. If there is a housing crisis, why would the city give away land, a critical resource for housing? the city would not give away the land. The city has over 400 parcels. Isn't that right? Over 400 parcels of land that's buildable for houses. We have more than enough. We have more than enough. If that I can't read this handwriting, but it has to do, if that's something, to open the art space school number 2. What does that look like for the residents? I'm not sure what the verb is. If you want to ask that, you can. So, all right, so we'll just go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Hello. Okay. Hello. I have a short statement. To the honored guests and community stakeholders and the residents of Happy Hill. My name is Abigail Harris. I'm the president of the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. Thank you for this meeting. We hope that it will be a dialogue and not a monologue. We, the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association, demand that the city of Winston-Salem make good on its promises regarding reparations, as the city council stated in April of 2021. The city then asked for a study of reparations, but Happy Hill does not need a study. We already have a solution. Give Happy Hill Neighborhood Association the land banked for affordable housing that was offered up to the art-based school for the quoted price of $1. Our organization is a 501c3, and for the past 2 years, we have done our own study with the law students from a well-known university to research what our organization could do to provide affordable housing, community food gardens, cultural spaces, including the shotgun houses that Cheryl Harry has fought for the past 7 years. Our solution is a community land trust in Happy Hill. Community land trusts are the model for communities to control land and development. The heart of a community land trust is the creation of homes that remain permanently affordable and provide ownership opportunities for generations of lower income families. There are models of community land trusts in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, for example. We feel the Happy Hill community, after 150 years of discrimination, lack of property ownership, misguided urban development, a community land trust is a viable solution. Thank you.
I'm just going to write ideas up here that come out. Thank you.
I just want to make one point clear. Thank you, Ms. Harris, for that statement. In terms of the request, there was a request by the Art Space School for the land. It was just a proposal. The city never voted on it, nor did they suggest selling it to them for $1. I just want to be clear about that, but they had a proposal they presented to council that has been since withdrawn.
Typically, when a proposal goes to a finance committee and does not pass, and then goes to the council, city council for a vote, obviously they feel like they have enough people for the vote. The fact that people showed up and spoke up is what I think why the city did not vote on it. So the thing is, and you said, Ms. Scipio, you said that you weren't giving land away. $1 is a donation. That's a donation. Whether I don't care if it's $1. It's a donation. So let's be clear about that.
We're going to be clear because we also going to give the shotguns to Ms. Harris group for $1.
And it's still a donation. It hasn't changed.
I'd like to comment. I'm Robert Clark. I chair the Finance Committee.
Yes.
I sent the proposal for the schools to the full council without recommendation because I didn't think there were enough votes to pass it.
But obviously, Ms. Scipio thought it was because they put it on the table.
No, I talked with Ms. Scipio. I said, Ms. Scipio, at the committee, you won't even get a second. There's 4 people on every committee. I got 4. I knew 3 of the 4 were against it.
Okay.
So if there was a motion, it wouldn't have made it. So I said, I will send it to the full council with no recommendation.
Thank you.
And we'll see what happens.
That's fine.
And it died.
You've answered the question. Thank you. My name is Tanya Sheffield, and I'm a board member of the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. The city of Winston-Salem should make good on its promises around recreation. We don't need a study. We don't need another study. All you have to do is reach into any nonprofit, little bank, data bank, and you got a study. We have solutions. You guys have solutions. I watched a Zoom meeting from last year that Brother Bass had. City council members, city members were there. You know about the solutions. You include the community in the conversation. You don't do that. There are a lot of conversations going on college campuses and different places about Happy Hill, and most times they're not even represented in the room. You're talking about the 10 lots that you're gonna build, I guess, give the housing authority to build the lots to satisfy the Hope 6 grant. What happened to the money if the developer only built 5 homes when 100 homes were supposed to be built? I asked that question before. Where's the money? So the HUD gave the city of Winston-Salem $18.2 billion to build houses and to pay developers to build these houses. Is that correct? How does that work? I'm not understanding. It doesn't make common sense to me. Money was given to build, only 5 homes were built. So it's not, that's all I'm saying. It didn't make sense to me. I asked those questions before. But let me carry on. Ms. Scipio, you stated that the affordable housing, if the city had buildable land, you told us this in June, that you would not sell it to anybody unless they were building affordable housing. That's what you said. I can play it back, I recorded it, remember? So, again, giving this land for a school, it's a great idea for a school, but here's the thing. Diggs was here. And it was poor because the school system and the city did not invest in it. See, majority of these schools that have money get more money. But the schools that need the money don't get what they need. They get the bad basics. Come on now. It's not rocket science. It's always the same thing. The system's been broke, never worked, and the thing is, ain't nobody trying to change it. What we're trying to offer you guys is a solution, a different way of doing business. We understand what a community land trust is. Yes, we have a lawyer that taught us this. So we are up on par on that. And yes, we plan to do all of those things. But we would love for you to start out by donating that land for $1 to the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association so we can show you guys how we can develop the land, because we too is giving all of the information to all the specialists to make decisions, great decisions about where we live. We can do that. We're just as intelligent. You don't need a college degree to think. Come on now. George Henry Black didn't have an education. He wasn't middle class. This man made brick by hand. He did it without an education. So you can't tell me education, letters behind your name makes it. It doesn't. Common sense gets you there. And I apologize if you guys are taking this in a negative way. I'm very passionate. Very passionate. That's why I step away from the mic. I'm loud. It's just passion. This is a community that has a rich history, and you know it. We can figure out better ways to have a school here, homes, affordable homes. And yes, people aren't making money, but guess what? We can figure out a way for people who rent, paying over $900 a month for rent or more. Of course, it's more than that, because I think most places are like $1,200 a month. And they're not surviving. Their whole check is going into paying rent. But my solution is, I know that it costs less to pay a mortgage than it does to pay rent. So yes, those people who are poor, $1,600, they can still buy a house because they can get a mortgage You know, if there's funding, we as a people have to figure out a way to make it possible for everybody to own something. Because I'm telling you, if this is the city of arts and innovation, you got millions of dollars to give corporations, but not a dime for poor people. The ones who elect you. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, guys. Can I have some of your time? Thank you. That's my time. All right, so okay. Money has already been allotted for the housing. You said the American Recovery or whatever. That money you guys have switched. You put 20 million towards the police force of that American Rescue Plan money. Well, that's what you said. I did the research. Look, you got the 30 million. Yes, you did. That's what you had allotted. You got 20 million from the rescue plan. Okay, so y'all changed it again and behind closed doors. I'm serious. Did you not do this research? Hello, I ain't crazy. I wouldn't say it if I didn't have it on my paperwork. I'm just saying. So my point is, money seems like it switched from that emergency rescue plan because it has stipulations. So it looks like 20 million came from the general fund, right? Isn't that what it said? From the general fund, and 10 from somewhere else, or whatever. And that's what you guys are going to use for the 30 million to build affordable homes in Winston-Salem. And I do believe the mayor was saying he was going to ask the council to push for 750 homes per year of affordable housing. Okay, when does that start? That's my question. And I think I'll be done right there. Thank you, guys.
So I can only speak to the question about the funding, or you asked about the funding for the single family homes and the grant amount. So to your point, yeah, there was approximately 20 million that was awarded in the grant. Most of that was programmed for the multifamily housing that was built. And then there was also down payment assistance that was provided from those grant funds. Needless to say, HUD tracks that money really closely. We get audited every year. So those funds, every dollar of those funds that came through the grant are accounted for and were used to build either multifamily housing in Happy Hill or to provide down payment and closing cost assistance for some of the off-site phases. The issue is that the model was for the single-family detached homes to be built by the developer and the developer to be able to make a profit on those. So there was not grant funding that went into that process. The grant funds were used to build the infrastructure. Like Councilmember Scipio was noting, there's water, sewer, curb and gutter, electrical access points. But the model, as the grant was written and as the grant was intended, was for a developer to be able to build a home on that lot. Let's just hypothetically say it would cost the developer $100,000 to build, and then the developer would be able to sell it for, hypothetically, let's say $125,000. So that piece was intended as a for-profit model. So I know you had some other questions, and I can't speak to those, but I wanted to try to respond to your question about those.
I'm just going to say one other thing. How many people actually live here in Happy Hill? Just raise your hand. Great. Great. How many people used to live here at some point in time? Okay. And how many people just love Happy Hill, they don't live here, and they're interested? Okay. Just want to know that. And I'm going to tell you this. You may not like it, but I'm going to say this. Whatever you want to do, you can do it now. You can do it. You can come together. You've got enough money to pull it together and be independent. You can do that. That's what other groups do. They don't just talk, they pull their resources together. Everybody who wants to. You've got enough people here to have enough energy to get it done. Now, whatever the city does in selling property for whatever amount of money, it comes with stipulations. It comes with big restrictions. And I will tell you,
don't go after city money, because it will tie your hands. I will tell you that. I will also tell you when it comes to low-income tax credits that you'll need to borrow to help do money, to get money. It comes with a whole lot of paperwork. You can partner with a developer to do it, but you've got to do it. It's your vision, it's your dream. I'll be more than happy to help you, but I can't do your dream.
We're not asking you.
But you want the city to give you money, give you land. And I'm telling you, it's gonna come with lots of restrictions. You will not be free to use that money, and it will come with performance criteria. That's why I asked to put the development process in your handout, because what the developer does is gets the money, capitalizes the project. They get it back when they sell or rent. But that's the role of the developer. And you have to have that skill or partner with someone who can do that for you. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it, but you have to come together and create that entity and move it forward. I did. I'm not going to, Mr. Smith, I'm going to tell you who I am. What I am on this council is I represent everyone in the East Ward. If you come to me, I champion your projects. That's what I do. Now, when you don't come to me and do end runs, I can't champion you unless you come or call. But that has not happened. There was a request to specifically go to the staff. I can't advocate for you if you can't. Miss Bidding wanted a footbridge for her father with a marker. She had done all she could, and she took it to the staff. It did not get done, and I told them to proceed with that because it was what needed to be done. So I'm just going to say, I'm just telling you how to get it done. If you talk to me, I'll work with you. I'll try to get everything that the city has to offer. And you have to be also on the flip side. There are times, there are processes. You got to follow the procedure. So let's go with the other questions. I'm here to serve you. I don't get no glory out of being on the city council. I'm here to serve you. There is nothing that I get. I'm retired. I've done all that I could do in my life. I've done excellent work. I've opened doors so some of you could go through those doors. He also uses people. He does use people, and he certainly used me.
If I may.
Go ahead.
If I may, please allow the people and myself to speak as we allow you all to put on the presentation. I think you should write down what is said and afterwards give your rebuttal, because we're on our time now. I really think that would be most respected. First, I'd like to thank the arts-based school for recognizing that a movement such as that should have been done with conversation with the community. And in moving forward, what we hope is that that same respect would be given to this ancestral historical community, to whereby we can sit at the table and come up with some decisions and some agreements as it relates to this land. Now you stated that we need to get all this money, but the baseball park didn't get all the money by itself either. We need to have some utility in our taxation, and especially in this marginalized community. Look at that swimming, look at the swimming pool over there. The one where little black children can't learn to swim. Where's the outdoors basketball court? We didn't have adequate input in that. All we're asking is to have expected and respected input in the decision processes as it relates to the land over here. And whether it be city-owned land or HUD-owned land, we want to see LMI housing, low to moderate income housing, to whereby people who have been marginalized for generations, their descendants will have an opportunity at home ownership to whereby they can generate wealth. So let's be real here. I would ask again, as these other people come up, let them speak without interruptions from you all, as we done to you all, and you write down whatever rebuttal you have and state it after that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, my name is James Grace, and I bring all the solutions to our problems. That is being facetious, but I'm not joking. So let me open up with a couple comments. In order to get anything done in housing, all of us across the city, all of these groups will have to work together to do something significant. If we were to build $100 million in housing, it's only 500 houses. You heard the lady say that we behind 16,000 units. We got to up the conversation, okay? So there are mechanisms or promises that have been made about money as it relates to low-income housing or affordable housing, if you will, by banks and a lot of institutions, foundations. Truist Bank promised in 2019 they were going to spend $60 billion. $32 billion is going in affordable housing. How much of it have we asked for? Nothing. So I am here asking for, I want all the land that y'all got. I'm not joking. And I want to work with these people to finance it and put it together, build it, so that when it's built, the decisions about how it is operated and how it functions is up to them. The reason everything failed in that is because they don't make decisions about it. And we need to be in control so that the solutions that we see can be put into effect. And that's our problem. Being as poor as we are, we don't have the right to make decisions about our own lives. And that's what we need to take control of. And the money that's going to be made is going to be made, some of it's going to stay here with your organization. It need not go out with a developer. We'll find developers a dime a dozen. When you got the money, you can do it out of sale. And I'm suggesting we do it. I already got the plan. I put the plan together last year. The only reason I gave it to everybody, but they don't understand it because I wouldn't put the details in it. I don't want them taking what I came up with for us. Now, the city has gotten $54 million last year. They're getting ready to get another $54 million. The county got $74 million. They'll get another $74 million this year. The school board got $200 million last year, and they're going to get another $200 million this year. How much you got? Where is it manifested in this community? And it's wordplay, y'all. They playing us. We just need to work together. And come up with our own. I don't care if they got an agenda. Let them have the agenda. We need an agenda. And the agenda is us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Rose. I'm with Housing Justice Now in Winston-Salem. I have a comment and then a question. My comment is a thank you to Councilwoman Scipio for proving to us that this land can be given away for just $1. My other comment is to thank you for bringing us all together. The Happy Hill Neighborhood Association, Housing Justice Now, Hate Out of Winston-Salem, Fearless, all of the groups, the Committee for Accountability and Transparency, which is now looking at some of these deals that you all are making in the back room. So my question is not for you, Councilwoman Scipio, because I think most folks here would agree that you've had enough to say tonight. So you can continue to roll your eyes and sneer at the people that you're supposed to serve here. But my question is for the audience here. Do you want to know who the donors are to Councilwoman Scipio's campaign? Because they are Republicans, just like her colleague, Councilman Clark. We thought there was only one Republican on City Council. Bud Baker, former president of Wachovia Bank, $2,500 to the committee to elect Annette Scipio. And with all due respect to the arts-based school, Griffin Morgan is one of the donors, the board of directors of the arts-based school. I didn't see any Happy Hill addresses when I was looking through your donors, Councilwoman, so I believe that it appears that money talks in this situation, and your donors, when they ask you to jump, you might say how high. So again, my question is, who wants to see some of this information about Councilwoman Scipio?
My name is Lamelia Bonner. My great-grandfather was Columbus Pitts, who was one of the first people to settle in Happy Hill. We have owned property in Happy Hill continuously for about 144 years. I also was part of the group that initially was working in Hope 6, and what was supposed to be a coalition. I was with the Southside Community Development Corporation, so I know a little bit about what went on then. But what I wanted to talk about today is, I think there's an agenda here that is kind of unspoken, that the city has for Happy Hill. I look back at some things a few years ago. I was talking about the development of Happy Hill Park. It said the long-term plan for the park is ambitious. It would have an in-ground skate park, garden with raised boardwalk trail, a south end amphitheater, horseshoe pits, picnic areas, shelters, a north end stage with lawn seating that could be used for events and festivals. And then there's a track, of course we see that. But they also planned a sloped lawn for seating that could be converted into grandstands in the future. At the time that this was written, Derwin Montgomery council members said, the park should be a premier location that benefits more than just the Happy Hill neighborhood. It has been a long time coming. It will be a citywide jewel because of its location. Happy Hill has some of the most beautiful views of the city. That park is essential to make it continue to come alive. I think that everybody knows who has been in Happy Hill recently can see it's gorgeous. They didn't know how gorgeous it was until they tore everything down. Once they did that, they were able to see how scenic it was, how strategically located it was. It's near these universities, it's near 52. You can get downtown in just a couple of minutes. In other words, Happy Hill is prime real estate. Okay? It's too prime for poor black people. Okay? I think that's what's going on here. And that's something that's not being talked about. And I think we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
There are people who create and maintain a system of oppression, and then there are people who accommodate it.
We know who that is.
My name is Yolanda Taylor. I'm the attorney for Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. I gladly want to report that in an emergency meeting by the board voted that instead of Happy Hill Coalition asking for the land to be placed in the community land trust, that the board, Happy Hill Neighborhood Association, which as you stated, is a nonprofit legal entity and a 501c3, Happy Hill Neighborhood Association wants the same deal you were advocating for the arts-based school. They want the land for $1. Also, I would like to say, this is a beautifully prepared agenda. It's too bad the residents could not get advance notice of what this meeting will be about. I was copied on several emails to you, Councilperson Scipio, asking for a copy of this agenda. You can't advance equity, and you especially cannot advance racial justice equity without impacted people, concerns being centered in discussions and their priorities being lifted in policies. There's a long history of this, excluding residents like people who look like the residents in Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. I do this work statewide, and as stated by the speakers before me, coming into Winston-Salem, I saw the beautiful skyline view of downtown. And as the speaker before me stated, this is indeed prime real estate. And you mentioned children living in poverty. I worked at Legal Aid for 13 years, helping people and families who were experiencing poverty. And let me tell you this, I believe in housing first. Housing first, because where you live matters. Where you live determines a host of opportunities. It determines whether or not you have access to health care, whether or not you have access to food, whether or not you have access to quality education, whether or not you have access to transportation. Housing sits at the heart of a system of multiple institutions that reproduce inequities. So today, I ask you, City Council Scipio, to stand with your constituents in Happy Hill, to stand with Happy Hill Neighborhood Association and advocate that this land be placed in a community land trust. They have experts already willing to rally, as you see behind them, be at the table with them. They already have the tools, they will have the technical support, and they will have the legal support to do this. So instead of making them feel fearful or wrong by asking for something, when we know that this city, Winston-Salem, was built on people who have hoarded opportunity and money and dollars for decades. There is nothing wrong with a historically predominantly Black community asking for restorative justice and restorative economics. So, thank you.
My name is I'm a resident of Happy Hill. I moved to Happy Hill with my parents in 1952. I've been in and out of Happy Hill off and on all my life. I live here now. My problem is, or my complaint is, the park. I grew up in this park. I played in this park practically every day. Our children love basketball. Others may not. They love tennis. They've excelled in those sports practically since they started those sports. I have children 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 13, 14 years old, coming to my backyard, which is right across the street, to play basketball because the basketball court that was at the center at the park was removed and eliminated. I built a basketball goal for my grandson years ago. They've grown up, they can't use it, but the goal is still there. So those children who normally would go to the park to play basketball have to come to my backyard to play basketball in a dilapidated basketball goal. The tennis court is gone. The splash pool is there, but it can only be used 2 months out the year if it's working, if it's operational. Other than that, it's closed. So that park was built for adults to hang out at the shelter
pretty much all day long and wait for someone from somewhere else in the city to come and run track. Other than that, the park has no value to the children in the community. So what I would like to see is the city donate some of the money that they have and complete the park that they started. Because it's not complete, because it doesn't serve the people in Happy Hill, and it doesn't serve the children that live here in Happy Hill. That's my concern.
Hello everyone, my name is Eunice Campbell, and I am a member of the Coalition for Accountability and Transparency. I'm also a member of the Coalition for Equity in Public Education and several other nonprofits that are pretty much community activists. A couple of things, more statements, and I need for us to think about some things. One of the first things I need for y'all to realize is that the housing crisis in this country was created by HUD. It will not be solved by HUD. And by that I mean they've decided to get out of the real estate business. So they tore down projects because a lot of those projects were prime real estate. Cabrini Greens in Chicago, right on the lakefront. How many black people live there now? Okay, same thing all over the country. So we can't look for HUD as a solution because they are part of what started this housing crisis when they destroyed all those homes with thinking that private industry or developers were going to be the answer, and you see how far that's gotten us. It's not the answer. And it's never going to be the answer. So we have to think of it at that level. Also, when it comes to education, Councilman Scipio, you said people need to be held accountable. What accountability were you putting in stipulation for the arts-based school when it comes to the achievement scores of the black kids at their school? Because right now, the black and brown children at their school, there is a 40 to 50 point gap in the achievements in those schools. It may be a B school on the outside, but when you start desegregating by race, you will see that it is not a B school. There is a gap still. So you can't uphold this school for being better than our public schools when our black and brown kids at that school are doing just as poorly at most of our other schools. So no, they do not get a passing grade with me when it comes to educating our black children, the few of them that they have. Let's make that plain. The few of them that they have, and the few of them that they have any intention of educating, if they had this school right here on these lands, there were not going to be full, that school was not going to be full of black and brown children. That would not even make sense to fund a public charter school with our taxpayer money, because that's what we're doing. Not to mention that I believe in last year's budget, it was talked about that Winston-Salem is #1 when it comes to tax-based revenue that we've given away. We've given away more property and don't receive taxes on it than Raleigh, than Charlotte, Durham, Greensboro. We've given away the farm. We've given away the farm. And we have to stop that. Offering anybody, any nonprofit property, you have to be sure of it. You have to be sure that they're going to serve the people. No disrespect to the arts-based school, but in this community, you weren't going to serve the people. You've been in business for 20 years. You can't all of a sudden now move into a black neighborhood and say, oh, well, we're going to bring in some more black folks. Can't happen. You should have already been there. Should have been your goal from day one. You are a public school. You're taking taxpayer money. Your goal should have been off top to serve everybody and to make sure that those achievement scores were where they needed to be for everyone. And my last statement, when I look at the average per capita income, people in this city need upward mobility. And I'm sure some of you have heard, maybe some haven't, but there was a survey or a research paper done a few years ago where Winston-Salem was third to the bottom when it comes to mobility in the country. The only two places in this country where mobility is worse than Winston-Salem are two Indian reservations. That says a lot about our past government. It says a lot about our lack of planning on a lot of people's part. It says a lot about our educational system. If you are born in poverty in Winston-Salem, chances are you're going to die in poverty in Winston-Salem. And that's not just the people's fault. You can't just do it. Just do it. You can do it. No, you can't. Because there are systemic reasons of racism why there are people making $16,000 per year in 2022. So before you build houses that people can't afford, let's make sure that people can afford it. And that's the job of the city council, county commissioners, and everyone else who's supposed to be bringing these jobs to Winston-Salem, not just incubator jobs for people with degrees in engineering, biotechnology, when you have people going to a Harvard High School at 9th grade with a 9% proficiency, but you're going to put an aviation department over at Carver School. When your freshmen are coming in with a 9% proficiency, how's that going to help the kids in Carver High School? Most of them. Put money into the schools. Really, I know it's the county's job to put money into the school, but the city can shovel some in. Y'all can put something in. Goodwill, good faith, something, if it is just in a program, not necessarily give it directly to the school, but give it to a program. You have to uplift the people, because no matter where you build in this city, if the people cannot afford the mortgage, if the bank is looking at that debt to pay ratio, they're going to turn them down. And unless the city is planning on subsidizing housing, the 16,000 units we need, then there needs to be some type of plan on how to get individuals in this city educated, workforce, real workforce, not just talking about workforce. I really want to see some workforce development where the average person in this city actually can obtain a job at a livable wage and can buy some of these houses.
Good evening. My name is JB Proback. The reason I was speaking, I just want to make a statement. Just found it kind of interesting how the history in the agenda has an issue in it that is oddly, shockingly relevant to today. It was noted, and stay with me, this is going to sound a little wild at first, that Dr. Schumann, Frederick Schumann of the Salem congregation, freed 17 slaves and provided passage and was repeatedly paid stipend to Liberia, and that was posited as a positive. When we look at the history of this, he was freeing his slaves because his lease on his land was ending. They were of no more use to him. And as part of the program of the American Colonization Society, their plan was to take free men, in case they gave other slaves ideas, and shipped them off to Liberia. The stipend that was graciously given for that was money they earned on the land we are standing on. It is a situation of someone in power deciding with the black folks who built that land, served that land, and who earned wealth on that land, they decided how that should be spent, how that should be used, and how their lives should be dictated. We're in 2022, and still the citizens in Happy Hill don't get a say first in what happens to their wealth, their agency, their homes. From now on, they should be asked first. Sorry.
Okay, I'm Erwin Mulrain from Crystal Towers. I'm a member of a group of Crystal Towers United. I realize there's a lot of marginalized people all over the city. And I'm just saying to you that there was $10 million that was maybe slated to be worked on Crystal Towers, the building. I realize that now they have a lot of issues there. Maybe there's a lot of light-handed, slow work, and a lot of work to be done. I would just like to say that I'm still at the building and I'm still hanging in there to try and make sure that something else gets done to this building. It'd be nice to see the building make some sort of change before I find a job out here. It seems like it's kind of hard. I worked all across the country, came back to the East Coast, and all of a sudden it's slow on me getting a job out here. And I'd like to say thank you for the chance to speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dee Washington, and I am from the Reynoldstown community. And it's a historic community. Some of you all, I hope you all know us, because we certainly know you. We're a legacy community of African American wealth and prosperity and power. What you do to one of us, you do to all of us. So the reason I'm here tonight is just really in listening and hearing and showing support. And I will say, I support a community land trust. I must say that. Because Winston is growing, we know that. We've got new people coming. We have a rich history. And Winston-Salem, I just want to lift this up. Winston-Salem has one history throughout the South that no other city can claim. If you look at what happened in the South, in the Deep South, we came off as sharecroppers, right? There was poverty when people left. Winston is not built on sharecropper poverty. So at the end of the day, we share a legacy in this country as African Americans, as Black folk, right? That is powerful and strong, but it was based on economics. When you ask the question, why are people poor? If you ask that question of yourself, everybody in this room, why are people poor? If you come up and say to yourself they are poor because they are uneducated, then what you have is we have to fix people. I don't disagree with education, Councilman Scipio, I do not. But why people are poor is an economic situation, because you yourself said that your father had a 3rd grade education. I am from Reynoldstown. My grandfather had a 6th grade education. He left every single one of his children money, finances, land, and possibility. He worked, but he owned a home. He owned a home, he owned wealth. He had the ability to share generational wealth. I recently went to an old plantation in South Carolina on a hiking trip. And if any of you have never done this, I encourage you to do so, because when we think plantation, we think straight land, right? Well, what's happened is the erosion of our plantations, because the land was so overused, it's mountainous now. But the reason why I share this with you is because when they were sharing the story of these plantations, one of the things they asked, and it hurt because it was a white man who asked a group of black people what was the first thing that the slaves wanted, or the formerly owned folks wanted. I hate that term, slave, let me just say that. And everybody said education, housing, all these things. But you know what the first thing they wanted? Land. Land. Because they knew the land would feed them, take care of them, and leave a legacy. So we have very few places left in Winston-Salem that honor that African-American heritage and history. So giving it away, I want to say something about education because I don't want anybody to walk away from this room to think that I don't believe in education, because I am an educated woman. But one of the things that I want to say tonight is that here's the thing. We know across this country that the system is not working for black people. So what is a system? If I ask any of you, what is a system? What is a system? So here's the thing. The system, or all of the systems, education, finance, housing, judiciary, all of these systems support our communities. So let me be very, very clear when I say this about land and the protection of black ownership. We will always find a reason. The systems will always find a reason to take away black power and ownership. This time it's an education center. The next time it'll be a healthcare center. The next time it'll be a prison or a jail. The next time it will be, we need green space. My point is, what we are trying to protect is the fact that, and let me be also clear to say this, national and international foundations across this nation are working to preserve. Annie Casey Foundation worked to preserve a land trust because they saw that black wealth and black power and ownership was decreasing exponentially. And it was our local governments that participated in that. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm simply stating all of this for us to be aware. We need to be aware that on the local level, it is important for us to understand how we're losing ground, literally. My question is, how many meetings did it take for the arts-based school to come up with that proposal? How many meetings, how many conversations happened? Was it one, was it two? Because that same number of meetings did not happen with our communities. I recognize the energy here tonight. I know, I feel it. I am a product of it. I know. I am standing in solidarity with you all from Reynoldstown. But here's what I will say to you tonight. We have a harder job, Annette. We have a harder job than any of the other council members because democracy has to work for us. We have to give it space. It's not just policies and practices and procedures and, oh, call this person, call my office. We have to give it space to have the conversations. And if we are not giving it space to have these conversations, then we are not doing our jobs. Period. And I'm not saying this about all of us. I'm saying as a council member, we have to have these spaces. So up there on key actions, I have never been emailed or called, not by just you. Derwin Montgomery had my cell phone number and my email address. Call me for anything. I heard nothing. I'll tell you when he called me. He called me at 10 o'clock at night when I opposed how much they were paying city workers and needed to pay them more. He found my number then. When I publicly brought that up and You, Sir Mr. Clark, brought it up. It was a council meeting. Oh, I got a call that night. Don't call me when the building is burning. Call me to help build the damn building.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. First, can't do that. First, Mr. Clark, nice to see you. Mr. Seshar, Ms. Tony, Ms. Scipio. This is nothing new, and I think you all know this as well. First of all, I just want to go to a quick conversation. There was a telephone conference call that I made to the former Executive Director of the Housing Authority, Mr. Larry Woods, about 3 or 4 years ago. You recall that. You were in on it, Mr. Seshar. And that call involved Mr. Woods telling me that, well, Ms. Allen, you see, the problem is we went to the city in 2010 and we asked the city to help us with housing. And we were told by then, who's now deceased, one of the city council members, Ms. Wanda Marshall, that don't come to the city anymore and ask us for any money for Crystal Towers or for Sunrise Towers or any other buildings. So if you knew that, and this was in 2010, do you all expect the city to really come and help? If they were telling Mr. Larry Woods this back in 2010, don't ever come to us, the city council, and ask us for any money for the housing authority, for Crystal Towers, or any other facility. See, that by itself should tell everyone we got a problem here. Because what we have to do, we've been talking about affordable housing. I know we have because I've been before you all down at City Hall many years. And it's like, it's time to stop putting all the money in everybody else's pockets, and it's time to start putting the people first. And the reason I have a connection to Happy Hill is because my aunt, who's 87 years old now and still fighting, Margaret Drummond, she raised 5 boys in Happy Hill, the Drummonds, okay? And my grandmother as well lived right across the street from her. So my point is, Winston-Salem does not belong to just a handful of people, especially outsiders. And I don't have a problem with outsiders. I really don't. But if you don't understand the history, if you don't understand what happened, how we got here, and one of the things that I want all the people to understand, this is our city. We made this city great. We really did. My grandfather came here in 1897 from South Carolina, helped Mr. R.J. Reynolds build some of the first buildings downtown, raised 13 children. So this isn't about just the city or the local government. Oh my goodness, Mr. Clark's been sitting, he's been the only Republican sitting on the city council forever. Okay?
I gotta know.
You're right. So the problem is that this isn't personal, this is about people's lives. And when we start dealing with people's lives, we have to step up to the table. So what I'm asking everybody tonight, stop asking and begging these individuals to do what's right, to do what you are entitled to do and have. Because it's your tax dollars and my tax dollars that have made Winston-Salem the city that it is. We are the ones that put the name on the world's map, Winston-Salem. Okay? So we have to stop begging these individuals. We have to demand that they do their job. You don't have to be for something, but when the people come to you and say, yes, this is what we want, this is what we need in this city, Oh my goodness, I've been to so many meetings and all I've ever heard was poverty, you know, housing, we need housing, ooh, in another 10 years we're gonna need this for affordable housing. Oh my goodness, we've given away enough tax dollars that we could have put affordable housing on every street in Winston-Salem. But see, you all don't know that because you're not at those meetings, and they like it when you don't show up to the meetings, because then they can pass whatever they want and nobody will be the wiser. So all I'm saying is that let's not play the games anymore. We're coming full circle. Your job, Ms. Scipio, all due respect, yes, you represent the East Ward. No one's questioning that. But also, it's not about you. It's about what the people want. And if you really like something or think that it's good, then present it to the people, share with them, but don't tell people this is what we're going to do, because that's what we've done in this city over and over and over again. Nobody has gotten really rich other than the developers and the investors and all these other people that have come in, and we have given millions of our tax dollars to. Okay? So let's think about that. Let's not think about the fact that, oh gosh, you know, we just got this land over here. It's more to it than this. If you take a look at Winston-Salem now, you'll see that we no longer really have historical black communities. We're one of the last cities in the country. And pretty soon, we won't have that. And by the time they make all of these decisions, this is why it's important to be down at City Hall. It's over and done with. It's over and done with. We've lost. But I'm here to tell you, and you all know I've been around for a minute now, and it's taken a while, but we're coming full circle. And this is what we're telling everybody. We're not playing. It's time to do the right thing. And we're not asking, we're demanding it. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Fleming, and I was raised and born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I've never lived in Happy Hill Gardens, but I have had an opportunity as a youth to come over here and be enriched by the STEM Center, and it has done tremendous things for me in my life through Mr. Ben Pickett. And I currently hold a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminal Justice, and I'm working towards my law degree currently. I also work on behalf of the Ministers Conference, and I'm the Community Relations Engagement Coordinator. And I just wanted to invite everybody out to a candidate forum for the Republican and Democratic officials, and that will be held at the Central Library October 6th from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at the Central Library. So if anybody has input on what they would like to speak about, I'm bipartisan, I'm represented as a bipartisan member, but I just want everybody to know that we're going to be having a candidate forum. It's going to be October 6th from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at the Central Library, which is downtown. And if anybody would like to help with any kind of voting initiatives that I have already set in place and is scheduled, if you want help with registering voters or you just want to give your time and commitment to it, feel free to call me. You can call me at 504-332-5869. So that's 504-332-5869. Again, I'm Andrew Fleming, and I wanted to thank everybody for their time and consideration today. Thank you.
I don't mean to disrespect anyone, but I got here late, and the way I found out about this meeting was through hearsay. My question is, and I need someone to get me on the right track. It doesn't matter to me that you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care about that. But what I do want to know is why are they selling that land for $1? If you were in country club
of Universal, you would pay more than $1. Okay? I live where we live. We pay taxes on our house.